and Eastern Stone and Kidney Foundation, and especially Dr. Rodo Kumar Nath for organizing this beautiful program and also for inviting me to give a speech on this auspicious occasion. Now, Dr. Hiken has actually spoken almost everything. He has hardly left anything for me to speak. That was a wonderful speech. I congratulate Dr. Hiken. That could easily could have been a keynote address actually. So, at the outset, my namaskar to you all. The yoga, my topic that has been given to me is how yoga was conceptualized, or what is the concept of yoga in ancient India. Now, yoga, as you all know, yoga means union. Now, union of what? Union of the self with the environment. Union of self with the world. And finally, union of self with the absolute. That is the union or the meaning of yoga. Now, this union, it always exists. Whether you do yoga or not, whether you do meditation or not, this union always exists. Only thing is that by practicing yoga, we can bring it to an experiential reality. That is the goal of yoga. Now, I will divide my talk into two parts. Now, when we talk about concept of yoga, you see, the Bhagavad Gita, we do not know the exact date when it was composed. Some says it is 5,000 years old. Some say it is maybe 5,000 years before Common Era. So it is quite old, and you get a lot of mention of yoga practice in Bhagavad Gita. Almost in every chapter, Lord Sri Krishna talks about yoga. So the concept is very old. But if you talk about one text which deals with yoga only, that is, I think, the first name that will come to us is Patanjali Yoga Sutra. The Patanjali Yoga Sutra, this is not written in verse form, of course. This is not poetic form unlike Bhagavad Gita. These are sutras. There are about 190 sutras in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Now, I'll divide my talk into two parts. First, I will read some of the sutras. So, there are about 190 sutras. I will not bore you by reading all those 190 sutras. I will read maybe about 8 to 15 sutras. Then I'll try to give you the meaning, and then I'll try to chant some of the verses from Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna has spoken about yoga. So nowadays, when we talk about yoga, anywhere people talk about yoga, sometimes patients also come to us and they tell us that I'm practicing yoga. Whenever people talk about yoga, they generally talk about yoga for health benefit. Now, see, yoga is a very beautiful thing, it's a grand philosophy, very wonderful philosophy. It is bound to have health benefit. But yoga was actually not conceptualized for health benefit. It was much deeper than just health benefit. The health benefit is considered to be a side effect, which of course we are using in a positive way. And this will have not only benefit in terms of our physical health, it will have benefit in terms of our mental health and spiritual health. That is why the philosophy of yoga is very grand and very deep. Now, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, there are 4 chapters: the Samadhi Pada, the Sadhana Pada, Vibhuti Pada, and Kaivalya Pada. Vibhuti Pada and Kaivalya Pada are actually much deeper philosophy, and we don't have time today. We won't go into the details. I'll just read some of the sutras from Samadhi Pada first. First sutra, Atha Yoga Anusasana, means now some self-discipline about yoga. The second sutra, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Now this sutra needs little bit of explanation. Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Nirodha is to bring to a halt or complete cessation. And Chitta is one aspect of our mind, not the whole mind. It is one aspect of our mind. According to ancient Indian wisdom, there are four aspects of our mind. Manas, Chitta, Buddhi and Ahankara. The Chitta you can consider in simple general terms as subconscious mind. And you see there are fluctuations, modifications, patterning or cyclical disturbances in our mind all the time. So this is called vritti. The cyclical disturbances or modifications that take place in Chitta or mind is called vritti. Now, I'll try to bring a metaphor from Swami Vivekananda in this regard. If you are sitting by a lake and trying to look at the bottom of the lake, the water is muddy, the water has ripples, so you cannot look at the bottom of the lake, you cannot see the stones there. And these muds and these ripples can be considered as vritti. So now come to the third sutra. Yes, the yoga is when these vrittis can be completely brought to a halt or complete cessation of these vrittis, that is yoga. So that is the final state of yoga. And the third sutra, tada jastur sarupe avasthanam. Tada means then, jastur is the seer or the witness. Then the witness or the seer will reside in its true nature. Means again the metaphor of lake, sitting by the side of the lake, if you look through the water, if the water is still, there is no mud, you can look at the bottom of the lake. Means you can experience your true nature. Tada drastu sarupe avasthanam. Then if we cannot do it, if we fail to do it, then fourth sutra, vritti sharupam itaratra. Itaratra means otherwise. So if we cannot do it, if we cannot control the vritti, then we will be identified with the modifications. We will be identified with the vritti. Then Patanjali Maharishi was a great rishi actually. He was no ordinary sage, he was a Maharishi. Patanjali Maharishi then classifies vritti. He says there are 5 types. Vrittaya, Pansattaya, Klista Klista. He says vrittis can be painful and not painful. It can be hurtful, it can be beneficial. So there are 5 types. He classifies vritti into pramana, viparjaya, vikalpa, nidra, smriti. Then he gives definition in subsequent sutras. We will not go into details. In subsequent sutras, he gives definition of these vrittis. What is pramana? This is right knowledge. What is viparjaya? This wrong judgment or wrong knowledge. Mithya gyan. He says mithya gyan. Viparjaya. Vikalpa. He says sabda jnana anupati vastu sinna vikalpa. Means we hear something and we immediately infer something which is actually wrong, which actually does not exist. That is vikalpa. And he gives a very interesting thing. He gives a technical definition of nidra, sleep. I don't know how many philosophers 2,500, 3,000 years before gave a technical definition of nidra. He says abhava pratyaya alambana vritti nidra. Means nidra is also a vritti, and falling asleep is not yoga. Somebody says that if you concentrate, if you meditate and fall asleep, oh, he has succeeded in yoga. It is wrong. So nidra is not yoga, it's a vritti that is to be controlled. You have to be alert. So he says abhava pratyaya means absence of awareness. So vritti that relies on abhava pratyaya is nidra. He again then defines what is smriti. Smriti is memory, of course, that you know. Then all these vrittis are to be controlled. Then will achieve yoga. He says in Sutra number 12, Abhyasa Vairagyabham Tanyudha. Means how you will control these vrittis? Abhyasa, practice. Abhyasa Vairagyabham Tanyudha. So we have to practice. We cannot achieve it at one go. And Vairagya is very essential. Dr. Hiten has quite, elaborately has mentioned about Vairagya. Most of the time we get entangled with things. So Vairagya is not keeping long beard and going to cave. Vairagya is, not getting entangled to things. That is Vairagya. And about Abhyasa again, Patanjali Maharishi, about Abhyasa, he says, Tatra sthito yatnobhyasa. Means you have to remain steady and you have to keep on practicing. Effort has to continue. And this effort has to continue for how long? He says in Sutra 14, Sa tu dirghakalena nairantara satkara savitu driha bhumi. Means you will be grounded firmly if you practice for a long duration of time and without break, constantly, and with good intention. That is, Sa tu dirghakalena nairantara satkara savitu driha bhumi. Then he of course defines Vairagya. Thereafter, after defining Vairagya, he defines Samadhi. He classifies again Samadhi different types. Then he gives techniques how to achieve those states. And he talks about Ishvara Pranidhana. Devotion to God is also very important to succeed in yoga. So he talks about Ishvara Pranidhana. And interesting, I urge everyone to read Patanjali Yoga Sutra. This is very beautiful. He gives technical definition of Ishvara. He defines Ishvara. What is Ishvara? So Ishvara Pranidhana is important. Then you do everything, all these things to achieve a state where you are peaceful, you are at bliss. So ultimate aim is what? Ektantika dukkha nibriti paramananda prakti. Means cessation of all sorrows, transcendence of sorrows, and to achieve bliss, paramananda. Then by achieving that, in Sadhana Pada, he gives again full description how to achieve the state, what are the techniques. It's a technique basically. Yoga is a technology to achieve, happiness and peace. What we will get ultimately in Sutra 48 in Samadhi Pada, he says, Ritam bhara tatra prajna. Ritam bhara tatra prajna is wisdom. So your wisdom will be full of truth if you practice yoga. The word prajna is such a beautiful word and so important word according to ancient Indian text. In Rig Veda you will find in Taittiriya Upanishad, Prajnanam Brahma means pure awareness is Brahma. So by practicing yoga, your prajna becomes full of truth. Ritam bhara tatra prajna. So now again, you will all agree, this is not easy. This is really very difficult. You will find how we can, purify our mind, how we can control all these vrittis. Therefore, Patanjali Maharishi in Sadhana Padam in the second chapter, he, gives certain limbs, talks about certain limbs of yoga. Ashtanga yoga it is called. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. First two are actually eligibility criteria for yoga. A person has to make himself eligible to practice yoga. If we do not know about Yama and Niyama, we are actually not eligible to achieve that state of yoga where Ritam Bharata Prajna. So, Yama has 5 aspects. Ahimsa, non-violence, Shaitam, truthfulness, Asteya, non-stealing, or you should not cheat others or you should not steal from. If you do it, you are not eligible for yoga. Then brahmacharya, little bit of control of your bodily needs is required. And aparigraha is a very wonderful word. Aparigraha. All our life we try to gather things. We try to increase our possessions, and that actually is an obstacle in purification of our mind. So these 5 are called Yama, and Niyama again has got 5 aspects: Shosa, Santusa, Tapa, Swaidhaya, and Ishvara Pranidhana. Shosa is cleanliness of body and mind. Santusa is contentment, Dr. Hicken has categorically mentioned. Tapa is austerity. Swaidhaya is studying the texts. And Ishvara Pranidhana is devotion or surrendering to God. Now, thereafter, if we succeed in these 2, we become eligible for practicing yoga. Thereafter comes the asana. About asana, Patanjali Maharishi in chapter 2, he says, Sthira Sukham Asanam. Asana has to be sthira, steady, and you have to be in sukha. You have to be happy in that state. If you do, very forcefully an asana which gives you pain, your mind will be there where you get the pain. So you should remain in that state for a long period of time. Then only you can proceed to the next step, which is pranayama. So before doing pranayama, your asana has to be such steady and you should be happy and comfortable so as to practice the next step. He immediately after this sutra, he says, another sutra, Prayatna Saitilla Ananta Samapatyabham. With very little effort, you merge to the infinite. Prayatna Chaitilla Ananta Samapatyabham. So merging into the infinite with very good asana. Now pranayama, the previous speakers have told about pranayama. This is breath control. There are different techniques. If you go to Art of Living, they will teach you. Basically, you remember one thing. You may take up different pranayama techniques. You remember one lines from a very prominent wise person. You breathe in, God enters to you. You hold the breath, God remains with you. You exhale, you try to reach God. You again hold the breath, you remain with God. So thereby you can concentrate on your breath and you can control your breath and different techniques. I will not go into the details. If you succeed in pranayama, then you can go to the next step, which is pratyahara. Pratyahara is withdrawing your senses. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna talks about this. He gives a metaphor again about the tortoise, how the tortoise withdraws his limbs. Likewise, this pratyahara is withdrawing your senses from sense objects to succeed in yoga. I am not talking about dharana, dhyana, samadhi. These are much deeper philosophy and very difficult to cover within very short span of time. I will very quickly go to Bhagavad Gita, some shloka chanting from Bhagavad Gita, and then I will conclude. So, because we don't have much time, so first from Chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga. Yogastha Guru Karmani Shangam Kyakta Dhananjaya Siddha Siddha Same Uttva Samahtam Yoga Vishyate. What is the meaning? The meaning is, if you are steadfast in your action, in your duty, we all have to be duty bound. If we are steadfast in our duty and we have no attachment to the result of action, and whether it is failure or success, if our mind can remain equipoised, that equanimity of mind is the essence of yoga. Then in the same chapter, verse number 53, Bhagavan says, Shruti Vipratipannate Yada Saishyati Nishala Samadha Vasala Buddhi Tada Yogam Avapshasi. Means, if you are not allured by the fruitive sections of Shruti, means Veda. The Veda, there are parts, Samhita part, Karma Kanda, or the first two parts are actually, we do it for some purpose. You do puja, you do rituals, so that you get something in return. So if when you go one step above, you are not allured by the fruitive section of Shruti, and your mind is fixed in a divine consciousness, then only one can achieve a perfect yoga. Tada yogam avastasya. That is called yoga. Then I'll chant two more slokas from Jnana Yoga, chapter 6. Yuktahara viharesya, yukta sistishya karmasu, yukta sapna bahudhisya, yogo bhavati dukkhaha. Means one has to be balanced in all his actions, like in eating, in recreation, in his work, even in his sleep. If he is moderate or balanced, then by practicing yoga and meditation, you can transcend all suffering. You can mitigate all your sorrow. So, ultimate purpose is served, to mitigate all sorrows and Paramananda Prapti, as I have already mentioned. Now, I'll chant one more and then I'll conclude. Maybe I have taken a long time, sorry for that. Lord Krishna has given so much importance to yoga, I can't believe. It's very nice. I mean, like Dr. Hiten, I urge everyone to read Bhagavad Gita. This is a very wonderful text and everyone should read. Like Patanjali Yoga Sutra also everyone should read. He has given so much importance to yoga. He says, Tapasibho bhiko yogi Jnani bhopi matodhikaha Karmi bhosa dhiko yogi Tasmat yogi bhavarjuna. See, the yogi is superior to a tapasvi, he is superior to a jnani, he is even superior to a karmi. Tasmat yogi bhavarjuna. Therefore you become a yogi, O Arjun. By why? The reason is simple. Because the first three, they strive for what? They strive for the world. They strive for worldly attainment. So they are at the bodily platform. But a yogi strives not for the world, but a yogi strives for God. Therefore, a yogi is in a spiritual platform and he is superior to all. So by practicing yoga, we can transcend all our sufferings, we can achieve the absolute, we can exceed the absolute, we can reach our goal, we can be happy, we can be peaceful. Thank you very much. Isn't it very wonderful, very beautiful?